Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today we are going to dive into an exciting feature of Next.js called Incremental Static Regeneration or ISR. In this video, I will show you how to set up a local mock API using JSON Server, implement ISR in a Next.js application, and demonstrate how it works with real-time data changes. First, let me start with what is ISR? That is, what is Incremental Static Regeneration? Incremental Static Regeneration is a feature in Next.js that allows you to update static pages after they have been generated without needing to rebuild the entire site. This combines the benefits of static site generation and server-side rendering by serving static pages quickly while ensuring they stay up to date. With ISR, you can serve cached pages while regenerating them in the background. Specify revalidation intervals to control how often a page should be updated. Handle large-scale applications efficiently by reducing build times and improving user experience. ISR is perfect for blogs, e-commerce sites, or any site where content is updated frequently but doesn't need to be dynamic on every request. Now let's move to VS Code and then set up our Next.js application to demonstrate incremental static regeneration. Okay, for that, to create Next.js application, the command is npx create next app @latest and then press enter. Now provide project name, that is ISR demo, ISR first demo, and then press enter. Here select no. I am going with JavaScript, so I am selecting no here. And then I want to use ESLint, so select S. At the same time, select S for Tailwind CSS, no for source directory, S for app router, no for import alias. This will set up our Next.js application. It takes some time to set up our Next.js application or project. I will pause here and then come back again once done with project setup. Our Next.js project setup is done now. Now let's go to project directory. From here, let's open our project in VS Code. For that, the command is code space dot and then press enter. This will open our project in VS Code. Let's go to our project. Next thing is, after this, our next thing is setting up JSON server. To demonstrate ISR, we will use JSON Server, a tool that lets us create a mock REST API quickly and easily. For that, open your terminal and then first install JSON Server package. Further, the command is npm install JSON Server and then press enter. This will install JSON Server package. Okay, JSON Server package. Once done with installation of JSON Server package, next thing is we should add, or let's create db.json file. db.json file in the root of our project, in the root of our project. db.json in the root of our project. This file will act as our mock data source. This file will act as our mock data source. Let's add some sample data for our blog. Okay, here let me add some sample data for our blog page. It's an array of objects. Okay, it's an array of objects. Here the first thing is ID, next title, hello world, title, hello world, and then body, this is a simple post. This is a simple post. Now let me add one more post data. Copy this and then paste it. Here ID is 2. Title is Next.js ISR demo. Next.js ISR demo, and then this is demo of Next.js ISR. Okay, now we have two initial post data here, that we will use for our demonstration. Next thing is starting the JSON server. Now let's go to terminal. And then use command npx JSON server hyphen watch, and then specify the db.json file, and then we want to start our JSON server on port 5000. This is the command which watches the db.json file for changes and starts a server at HTTP localhost on 5000 port. Now press enter. See here, it started our JSON server. Now verify the server. For that, go to browser. So I am using browser inside VS Code. For that, the command is Control Shift P, and then select simple browser here. Here enter the URL HTTP localhost, and then specify the port 5000/host, and then press enter. See here, now we got our post data when we access the URL. Okay, now we are done with setting up JSON server and then starting the JSON server. Now let's implement let's implement ISR in the Next.js application. For that, what we have to do is create one folder, that is one directory, that is pages. Inside pages, create a new file named blog.js. Create a new file named blog.js and then press enter. Here, what we have to do is we should add code to display, to fetch the data from DB server, that is JSON server, and then display. For that, let's add the code. Okay. Inside this, for this block component, I'm going to pass properties posts generated at. Okay, I'll tell you how we pass this properties to this block component. Let me implement the code first. Now inside this component, I'm going to return the component to display the post data. Okay, for that, let's add div and then header h1. Okay, header h1 latest blog post data. Okay, and then let me add a paragraph. This will display the generated time. Page generated at I'll use this property to display the page generation time. Okay, now here let me display the post data. Inside UL, let me display the post data, which I'm going to get from the property posts. Okay, from here, let me iterate or loop through post data. Let me loop through post data. Li. Okay, here let me add a key. Post.id. Inside list item, I'm going to display the title of the post. Post.title, and then the body, post.body. Okay, now with this, we are now done with designing or implementing the code to display the post data on blog page. But we should add a mechanism to pass these properties to block component. For that, I'm going to use one method from Next.js, that is getStaticProps. Okay, export sync function. I'll tell you about the getStaticProps once we are done with this implementation. getStaticProps. Okay, here we use Axios. Okay, before that, let me install one more package to fetch the data from DB server. For that, let me go to terminal and then install Axios and then press enter. We need this package to fetch the data from mock server. Okay, now let me use this Axios, and then pass this URL. Copy this, go here. Okay, now with this we fetch the data response from our mock server. Now here post equal to res.data. We should now return this post data, return props, posts, comma, let me copy this property, generated at this is to pass the generation time, new date dot to local string. Okay, and then we should specify revalidate to 60. Okay, now with this we are done with implementing our getStaticProps. Now let me export our blog page component. Okay, blog. So this is the code which we use to fetch the data from mock server and then display on blog page. But before we run and test this incremental static regeneration, let me explain you what is getStaticProps and why we use this. Okay, let me explain you what is getStaticProps. getStaticProps is a function in Next.js that allows you to fetch data at build time, which is then used to pre-render a static page, improving performance and SEO. By specifying revalidate in the getStaticProps method, we inform Next.js to use ISR for this page. Okay, now you understood why we used getStaticProps to fetch the data and then pass it to our blog component. This is the reason. When we add revalidate property to getStaticProps, it says that it informs to Next.js server that use incremental static regeneration for this page. That's why we used getStaticProps inside our blog page component. Okay, now before we test our incremental static regeneration, let me explain you the request flow of incremental static regeneration. Request flow of incremental static regeneration. So when we successfully build our application, Next.js application, or run it for the first time, the getStaticProps function is executed during the build process. The pages using getStaticProps are statically generated. And saved as HTML files on the server. These files are then served to the users whenever they request the page. Okay, next is when a request comes from user for the first time, Next.js server serves the pre-generated static HTML file from the initial build. Okay, next is once the static page is served to the user, the revalidation timer will start. As soon as the static page is served to the user, the revalidation timer start. Okay, the revalidation timer start. Next, when another user requests the same page, when another user requests the same page within revalidation interval, the Next.js server continues serving the pre-generated static page without any revalidation. Okay, without any revalidation. Once the revalidation timer, once we reach the revalidation timer, ISR process kicks in. The Next.js server detects that the page is stale and triggers a background generation process for the page. The getStaticProps function is executed again in the background to fetch the latest data. During revalidation, if a user requests the page during the background revalidation, the Next.js server still serves the stale static content until the background regeneration process is complete. Once the background regeneration process completes, the server generates a new static HTML file with the updated data. This new file replaces the old file on the server. Any user requesting the page after the regeneration, the Next.js server serves the freshly regenerated static page with the new content. Okay, this is about request flow for incremental static regeneration. Now let's run our Next.js application. Let's go to terminal and then start your Next.js application. For that, npm run dev. The command is npm run dev. Let's run our application. Now if you see here, our application started on localhost at 3000 port. Let's go and check. Press enter here. Yeah, if you see here, now our application started. Now from here, let's go to blog page. Okay, we got one error. It's saying Axios is not defined. Let me go here and then check. Okay, we haven't imported Axios. For that, let me do it. Okay, now let's save and then go to browser. See here, now we got our blog page. And then you see here, page generated at this time. Okay, now let's modify the data. In db.json. And then hello world updated. Now let me update the data in db.json and wait for 60 seconds and then refresh the page. Now we should see our updated data. So our data first generated at 4:15. Now let me wait for some time, that is 60 seconds. Why? Because we specified our revalidation time as 60 seconds. Okay, after 60 seconds our data should be refreshed and then our blog page should have updated data. Now updated data. Let me refresh and then see. See here, I got the latest updated data, and here if you see the time also, it's 4:16. Okay. Now with this we successfully implemented ISR in a Next.js application and demonstrated how to use JSON Server to simulate a backend API. Okay. With this, I'm closing this video. If you found this video helpful, please like, subscribe, and leave a comment below. Let me know if there are any other topics you would like me to cover. Thanks for watching. See you next time.